You know I have to do the intro.
What intro?
The intro that I did.
I
Oh.
don't know. I don't know what else.
Now you may proceed, sir.
Welcome back to the Low Bearing Opinions podcast. My name's Ryan,
And I'm CJ.
and this is no script, straight talk. No, that's not it. No. Gosh dang it! 4 episodes in, and I still can't get this crap. Straight talk, no script. Gosh, dude.
You almost had it. You almost had it.
Straight talk, no script, no apologies.
There we go. And we don't have any corporate buzzwords or fluff at all. So hopefully just some opinions that may be load bearing.
Maybe low bearing.
All right.
So this week on the this week's episode is talking about you can't train effort, only skill.
Can't train effort, only skill.
Yep.
You know, so I want to say that, I mean, obviously I truly believe that, right? But I want to think that a lot of people in this industry disagree with that statement.
100%.
Because why? I mean, why? Otherwise, we wouldn't have jobs.
Yeah, I was going to say we wouldn't have jobs, right? I would say there's, I guess, around the training space, because it's gotten so big here in the recent years, I would think, just because of the way companies are going back, like we got to train our people, which is a great thing, and I love that motivation. But I think we lose a little bit of it. Some do. Is that doing this training is what's going to really amp back up the field, I guess, the crafts.
Yeah.
And it's not just that. It's what they do in the field, too, and how you tie training to what you're doing in the field.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm going to say this a lot in this show. Back when I was growing up.
Hey, bring it up, man. That's what we got to learn from.
But, you know, back when I was growing up, I didn't take any classes. I didn't have any training whatsoever.
But let me ask you this now that you do the training. So now that you actually do training, what do you see that you could have, what do we do now that works that if you, when you was coming up, would have made it better for you?
Oh, I think it all works, right? I do absolutely agree that it works. I just didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
I didn't have that ability to take a class because, you know, back then companies weren't doing this.
Yeah.
So.
And I would say my first exposure to any kind of construction training came in high school for me. I don't know if you ever had any opportunities there or not, but that was one of my first opportunities doing training. And it wasn't even through like a CTE program like you see today, like a career tech or anything like that. It was an ag program. It was Future Farmers of America, FFA. That's how I got involved, and that's how I learned a little bit of welding, carpentry, like even small engine repair, stuff like that. Those are the things that I got exposed to in high school that I would say has helped me in many ways. I'm not saying ever becoming a master at anything, but it's helped me in a lot of ways to learn things that I would have never learned otherwise, I don't think.
Yeah.
Or it would have took me longer to learn them.
Yeah. I wonder if my granddaughter's in FFA, and but she's like on the horse riding side, so I wonder is there any kind of crossover? Is she going to learn how to fix a small engine?
It's possible. I mean, the way our ag program worked is it was both. So like it was a shop class, but it was also like agri-science class. So like I was part of FFA. You didn't have to be part of FFA if you was in ag. That wasn't a have to. But you still learned about it. You still kind of participated in certain things. And it's things that I learned that, you know, I guess helped me develop who I am today in some aspects. I showed pigs. Also did land judging, which was neat. We made state and small engines, so like things like that, all what I got to experience in high school, along with the welding and carpentry side of things. We built anything from, you know, nail boxes and other things like that, all the way up to sheds and learning roofing, framing, things like that. And then we got into a little bit of welding. And we was welding because of showing pigs. We would outfit horse trailers sometimes with welding, we'd weld pins together for the pigs. And so like it was a cool project.
Were you customizing? Were you putting LED lights and, you know?
I wish we went that far, but it was funny because we just saw, you know, issues that we were having loading pigs on there, and we came up with different latch systems because you had a manual latch that you would have to actually physically like open up, turn, and like shove in place really quickly. Well, pigs are pretty quick if you didn't know that.
I did
and
not.
So when one runs through and you're trying to keep it from going into the very back pen, trying to keep it, in a certain pen, the gate needs to latch quickly. And so we built a latch that latched quickly. I mean, that was some cool things we came up with. But.
Yeah, and my life was on a different trajectory back in high school. I was looking at college, and I'm still a nerd, but construction trades wasn't even in the forecast for me. So I didn't see any kind of, well, what I would call practical learning until I got into construction. So.
But that brings up something I want to ask you. So, being that you didn't really have any, I guess, tie to the construction industry, correct?
Oh,
Before
yeah.
You came into it,
my dad
okay.
was an aviation electrician, man.
Yeah.
The dude knew how to fix a wiring harness on an A4, but...
Yeah. So, in saying that, like when you came in, you learned everything in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's some things that in the field, your mentors that you had or may or not had, what did they kind of give to you that you kind of use maybe now today in training classes?
Well, when I was working with my hands doing, because when you come into construction, you're a laborer, right? So I was taught how to swing a hammer and how to nail things together. And you would think if you're not in construction, you think that there's just one way to nail something, right? But there's not. I mean, there's 50 different types of nail type attachment, or fasteners, and you hit a wood into wood, bonding wood together nail different than you would hit a concrete nail.
Yeah.
So I got that kind of instruction when I was the laborer moving into the carpenter side. But then when I started to work with the field engineers doing layout, that's when I started learning the technical side of the field. The blueprint reading, the shop drawings and all that stuff. So, and there wasn't a quote unquote curriculum. It was just like, hey, we're doing this today. This is how you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And, that incremental learning, I think, really helped me because it wasn't, I love our classes, right? But there's times that 4 days in a row is a lot for a lot of people, and you get to a point where you're overloaded and you're not learning anything.
Well,
So,
I would say, because I've struggled with that same thing, like, especially on the 4-day classes where you got them going, maybe we're doing a project all week, and heck, I've had some guys say they work harder when they're in training than they do on the job, which I cannot believe. But just depending on what type of job they're on. But I've seen guys take, I guess now I'm at a point where I've seen guys actually take what they've learned in class and was able to apply it on the job, and it's a win, right?
oh yeah,
And it's a huge win. It's so important, though, the way that, like, we run our carpentry classes is we make sure the job has a part in it, too. Mm-hmm. It's not just them coming to training and then them going back to the job. They've got a foreman on site. They've got a superintendent on site that is a mentor to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge key to making sure training works, is that you're not just doing it in the classroom. You're not just doing it out in the shop or in a kind of a setup environment, I guess, environment or whatever you want to say. You're combining that with what they're actually doing on the job. And that's with their mentor. And then one big thing that I always liked doing was going out and seeing the guys in class. I actually go out and see what they're working on, have them show me, the sidewalk they've been pouring, or the stairs they poured, or the deck that they helped with, things like that. And then got to talk to their mentor a little bit to get a little bit more insight about the person. Because sometimes I only see them in class, and then when we get out of the job, I get to see what they're like every day out there. So I think that's a big part of any training that you go to, is to make sure that it ties directly back to the field and make sure that their people on site have something skin in the game.
yeah, absolutely. And they're not going to learn everything there is to learn about their trade in a classroom.
No.
And I think we're very clear about that. And in fact, that's in our orientations most of the time. Like, you're not going to be, in my case, you're not going to be a field engineer after you get done with this class.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to do several different types of jobs so that you can learn different scenarios, and you can learn that not everything works for every situation.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talk about construction being a very kind of diverse environment. You know, we don't do the same thing every job.
No.
I mean, yeah, we pour concrete, we tie rebar, you know, we set embeds and we put skin on buildings, but it's not the same thing. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons that we get, I think, that we can teach.
Yeah.
Is that you can learn, if you learn the what, it will teach you more than the how.
I've always said that what we're doing is giving people fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Giving them fundamentals that they can take back to the field and apply to hopefully what they're doing then. But it's not always that way. I mean, like, I wish we could start a carpentry class right when we started a job that was coming out of foundations, because then you could teach through that job and the class and make it work. But that's not how construction works. And so giving people, breaking it down to the fundamentals of what they need to know about these things that we teach on. Give them the fundamentals, and then when they get to that part of the job where they're doing it, hopefully the light bulb comes on and goes, oh, I remember talking about Johnny
Right.
clamps in class. I know what those are. I know what pig's feet are. I know what a whaler is. I know how to assemble a wall somewhat. Now, they're not going to be perfect at it by any means, but at least now the foreman's not having to go, hey, this is a Johnny clamp. This is a pig's feet. Your whalers go horizontal. Your stiff backs go vertical. I mean, like, so they at least understand the fundamentals of things.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. So, what is the importance of having somebody on site? You know, we all, right now, we put a bunch of people through these classes, but, you know, some people, they're not very social, right? I mean,
It's true.
me.
You're one of them. Even though he doesn't look like it sometimes, he is very antisocial.
But I mean, how does somebody like that get that on-site instruction, that OJT, that on-the-job training?
That's a tough one, because I will tell you, I've had guys in class that struggle with that exact thing.
Yeah.
They don't want to go talk to their foreman. They just want to be that kind of shadow behind the crew sometimes, just to do the work and get done with it. And it's tough. I think eventually some of them come out of their shell a little bit to it.
Yeah.
But I think it all is in, if you're wanting to learn this industry or the craft that you're doing, you're eventually going to have to take a little bit of step outside that shell.
Yeah.
And connect with someone. You know, it could be your foreman, whoever it is, but be able to actually start to learn from somebody and be a little bit more vocal in what you want to learn. I think you have to.
Yeah.
Because if you're the shadow that's always working hard, just kind of behind the crew, I just don't think you're going to learn as much. You might. I mean, there's definitely guys that can do that. I just don't think everybody's that way.
Yeah.
If you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, now the big thing, I think, you know, we kind of talked a lot about training, but what was the title of it is how we can't train effort, right? Or can't.
You know, this is usually what happens with our phone calls. It's just like we just go off on tangents. I didn't even remember that's what we were talking about. My bad.
I know. Well, I think that was a good conversation leading up to this, though, is just ensuring that, you know, we talk a little bit about the training fundamental first, and then understanding you can't train effort. You can only train skill. Now, like we said up front, does that mean that we can make a carpenter or a field engineer training class? No. And we're always very upfront about that.
And plumbers and
classes.
electricians don't think we're just, you
Yeah.
know, it's all the same thing.
Iron workers, whoever. So, same thing with that is you can't just train the craft in a training class or the skill all the way through, but you can give a lot of fundamentals. So the effort, and we've talked about this before, But
Yeah.
I always go to a lot of companies do training and they pay for it. Not every one of them, but a lot of them now that I know of are doing training and they pay for the training. They do all these things, but then you have guys come in and not give the effort towards the opportunity. Or let's say a guy on a job site that is being given these opportunities but doesn't take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Now, there's guys that maybe all they want is a paycheck. I get that. Totally get that. Maybe there's guys that are antisocial, whatever. I guess that could be another.
You know, I don't think the antisocial ones are not doing the effort. I think it's, and you know,
Well, that's true.
I'll be honest. Like a lot of people my age are saying, "Oh, it's the new generation. It's the new look." We were that generation before.
This has been said 1,000 times.
Yeah, I don't think that holds much credence anymore. But you know, young people in general, and I'm not saying generationally, but young people in general are more reserved. You know, people my age look at these 20, 25-year-olds and go, "I was never like that." Bullshit. That's exactly how we were.
Well, one of the things that we started doing that I liked a lot was when we get a field apprentice class together, we have some of our, I guess, executive field leadership come in, and they talk to these guys. And one of the things that one of them brought in this last year, they brought in 10 traits that you are in control of. And we've talked a little bit about these before, and I hate to hit on them again, but they're extremely important. You know, I'm not going to name off all 10 of them, but a few of them are being on time, being there every day, you know, things like that. And I think a lot of that is the effort that you put forward. So if you're being given the opportunity to be in training, or you don't even have to be going to a training class, just learning something new on the job.
Yeah.
Being willing to do that, being willing to show up every day to learn something, even, and I've heard this 1,000 times, being willing to ask for help and not being afraid to maybe come in early for that help or stay late for that help.
Yeah.
Because I've heard so many stories of guys like the way I learned to read drawings, becoming a field engineer or even becoming a foreman or whatever, I came in an hour early because that's what my mentor said. He said, I don't have time to teach you during the day.
Yep.
But if you come in an hour early, I'll give you that full hour of training you up on whatever you want. And then I'll stay late if we need to. Yeah. But you got to be willing to do that. You got to put in a little bit of effort.
And you got to be willing to, I mean, I hate to say it, but you're not getting paid for that time in your paycheck, but you're investing in your future.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to be the one that mandates somebody not get paid for their time. Like that's not it. But that is a very good way to learn, because you do get a lot more out of that time than you put into it. Yeah. And the effort that it takes to do that.
And I would say, like, nowadays, I tell guys in class all the time now, I'm like, hey, look, if you're not, with drawings being digital now, I mean, everything we have is digital, it seems like. You could ask your foreman for access to the drawings on your phone, and then ask him what you're doing over the next couple of weeks, and you can look at it in the drawings with him or take it home with you. Like, that's some of the effort I'm talking about, is just being willing to go, hey, I want to learn this. Will you help me or give me the opportunity to learn it?
Yeah, and I don't think there's anybody in the industry right now that would say no to a request like that. I mean,
I don't think so.
You know, most of the people that I know, I would say 99.9% of the people I know would be more than willing to go out of their way to teach somebody if they were willing to learn.
100%. And I think across the industry, not just the company we work for, anything, exactly what you said, is willing and almost like putting an emphasis on doing that right now. Because we've heard about it 1,000 times, the skills gap, everything. It's been going on for a long time. I think it was around when you was coming up. It was around when, my granddad was coming, things like that. Yeah. So it's always been around. Is it getting worse? It seems
I'm not discounting it.
I'm not discounting it. The numbers seem to be, it was getting worse for a long time. It seems like now we're starting to make an effort. Obviously, the effort's paying off a little bit. I don't think we've closed the gap that much, but we're working towards it.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
And so I think it's important.
All thanks to Mike Rowe.
I do, Mike Rowe. Shout out Mike Rowe, I guess. Mike Rowe is the dude. We got to hear him speak last year.
Yeah.
And I've heard him, I guess, between Dirty Jobs and every other interview I've ever seen him in. I've heard him 1,000 times, but listening to him in person was different.
Yeah.
It really was. This is a guy that actually cares.
Yeah, he does.
He's not doing it for the money. He's not doing it for all that. I'm sure he's making a profit off of something,
Hey,
but you got to make money. But at the end of the day, that guy actually does care.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people took to that and is starting to change the way that is. And I think in saying all that leads us back to the topic of the episode is you have to put in a little bit of effort. If people are offering you opportunities, if you're looking for the next opportunity, you have to put in the effort to chase it.
Well, and we hear so much about how much money there are available in the trades. If you plumbers making $75,000 a year, electricians, carpenters, there's a lot of good money comparatively to if you go get a 4-year degree with all that debt, all that school loan debt, and your earning potential right out of college isn't near as high as. But I think it's really important to let the younger generation know that while that is available, you do have to put in that effort to get there.
Oh yeah.
We have a lot of people that get into the trades thinking, man, they're just going to give me money, just for being here, and that's not the case.
That's true.
We do have to produce, just like everybody in the corporate world. If you're not producing, you're not going to be around very long. So.
Exactly, and we're in beautiful Orlando today. If we didn't say at the beginning of the episode, another in-person episode that took just as long to set up, I think, as last time. We're not getting any better at it. But Orlando, hot as hell during the summer.
Yep.
High school kid comes out not ready for that full 10-hour day, 12-hour day. Man, it's brutal. It'll teach you real quick if you want to do this or not. You got to have a little bit of effort and a little bit of want to adapt.
And I've always said this, that I think this is the best industry in the world. We're a bunch of kids, man. We get to go out and play with our toy trucks and our toy excavators and dig big holes and our Legos. We put our Legos together.
Well, I'll tell you this, it was just a few years ago when we got to go up to Komatsu Demo Day, if you remember. Mm-hmm. I had a Tonka dump truck that I used to roll around in the backyard and fill full of dirt. I got to drive that truck finally.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be able to do it, I guess. But I got to drive that truck, and it was like a little kid again, but I was driving the truck instead of pushing it around. So, really cool experience. We are a bunch of kids out here playing with toys, it seems like sometimes.
Yep.
But there's a seriousness to it, and you can learn a lot of things. And I think the overwhelming thing that we're trying to push is that while training is great, we want to do training, we want to keep that going, you're not going to learn everything you need to know in training.
Well, formal training.
Training. That's what we're talking about. You have like formal training, you have on-the-job training, and then you have your kind of...
quick, what's the third word?
I guess that's it. Wasn't thinking. But you have your formal training and on-the-job training, and those two coming together is what you need to happen to make a good training class and program overall.
We can't train effort. We can train a skill, right? But how does somebody increase their effort? So let's dig into that. Like, what can somebody do to get better at putting out more effort? Because nobody starts out with throwing out the most effort in the room.
Yeah.
So like, how can somebody train the effort muscle?
I think it's one of those things is start small and work your way up. Mm-hmm. And have you heard the speech? I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. That was like, first thing to do in the morning is make your bed.
Oh, it was an Army general, wasn't it?
No, I think it was a Navy admiral.
Of course, it was a Navy guy.
Yeah, I think it was a Navy guy. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but his wake up in the morning and make your bed first thing. I think it's those things.
Yep.
The little things make a difference. And I think that's what you're talking about, training yourself to give more effort, is when you show up to the job, showing up a little bit earlier, being prepared for work. Those things are critical at first. First, being on time. 15 minutes early is on time in a lot of people's playbook in the construction industry, or 30 minutes, whatever that is. Be there on that time. Be willing to be there a little bit early to get started, be prepared, and then be willing to jump in on new things. And I think that's the one that takes a little bit of time to, I guess, get used to, for some people at least. I don't want to, not everybody's going to want to raise their hand and be like, hey, I'll do it. But I think you have to train yourself to kind of start like, hey, I'll take this opportunity, I'll learn. And you got to start being willing to do that. And I think that's all things you control. Nobody can drive it out of you. There's foremen that can force you to do things you don't want to do, obviously. And maybe that's how you learn something. At the same time, I think you're talking about your effort individually. You have to start doing those little things.
Yeah, and it's just like with any habit. I know that there's been a lot of studies on how to have a behavior become a habit.
Yep.
How many repetitions and how many hours or minutes or whatever it takes. But I think it is starting small, like you said. But having a plan to do that.
Yep.
Write it down. Do something that will remind you that there's a reason for it. You have to attach a reason to it. You can't just say, well, I'm gonna get to work 15 minutes early, or I'm gonna volunteer first. But you have to have a reason, right?
Yeah.
Because in the we talk about working out. I'm too tired to work out. I'm too tired.
I always say that. Don't have time.
Yeah, don't have time.
Whatever
it is.
It's an excuse.
Right? So but have we attached a reason to it? Is there a why?
That's true. That is true, because we have. I know I have talked a lot about that, and attaching a reason to it, attaching the why to it, is what can change your mindset.
Yeah.
I think, and it's not a secret sauce we're giving anybody. This
Nope.
is all things that have been said before. But hopefully, listening to this, maybe you can finally attach a reason or a why. And I think everybody's a little different. I don't want to, you can speak generally on a lot of these things, but overall, making a plan, and the plan needs to be, what I do at least, is a little bit adaptable, is meaning like maybe your goal is to be a superintendent. Well, along the way you find out you just want to be a field engineer or whatever that is, or a carpenter foreman, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But being adaptable to that plan, but have that plan, because that's what's going to drive you. That's the why. That's the reason. And it helps you keep that in sight. And along the way you can make adjustments.
Yeah.
So
and it's all the little things add up, and
they do.
It's a snowball effect. Once you start getting to work early,
we're bringing Dave Ramsey into a good job. We're going to touch all podcasts.
Hey, we'll take any kind of sponsorship you guys want to throw at us. But it's you show up to work 15 minutes early, and you make that a habit, and then all of a sudden you're talking to the foreman about learning how to read drawings. Then you start volunteering for things. It just snowballs into it.
It does, and it quickly. I think one thing, life is like a blink of an eye. A lot of times, a lot of people say.
Like a what?
Like a blink of an eye. Everything is quick.
Now we're throwing movies into it. Life is.
Is that a movie?
Forrest Gump.
Maybe no. That's life is like a box of chocolates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good job throwing another movie in there. But life's, everything happens in life quickly if you actually zoom out. Like very little moments happen. Sometimes they feel big, but at the end of the day, a year later, you're going to be like, man, that was so insignificant. But the one thing you can always bank on that I found is that when you do it, like you said, attach the why, attach the reason, and create a small habit, and it builds and builds and builds, snowballs. In a year, you're going to look back going, man, that made a huge difference by just doing the little things. And it gives you a lot of changes your effort mindset to want to keep doing it and build a bigger. And so I think that's some extremely important things that, like I said, we're not giving a secret sauce. It's just there, and you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing I will tell you, and everybody that's listening, the small effort it takes to put your grocery cart in the corral, you can change somebody's life.
Let's start that today. Everybody listening, please, next time you put that that last grocery goes in the car, turn around, shut your door, grab your cart, and take it to the cart corral. I'm talking to everyone.
Those corrals are not that far away from you.
No, they're not. They're not. Park right beside one. Like, that's the change you can make.
There you go.
If you're the guy or girl that does not want to walk far to put your cart, find the cart corral and put it park right beside it. Because some people would do that and then back out of their parking spot and put the cart in their parking spot. Like, that's some people in this life.
That takes more effort, doesn't it?
It does.
Maybe they're working on themselves. They're working on themselves.
They're working on how I can be an asshole 1% more than what they're working on.
That's funny. All right, so this is such a huge topic. I feel like we haven't really spent a lot of time on it, but like, what else can we say?
I think that's a good one. We can talk about it more in other episodes, and we're going to with other things that we talk about. But I think that just overall is the little things that we can all do. Yeah. And it applies to everybody. It's not just one person. It's everybody out there. If you start with something small, habit, you're going to change your effort mindset, I think, overall. And you'll build yourself towards learning a skill, like we talked about. You can train on skills. You can learn them in the field. If you start putting forth that effort to doing those things, then you will become what you plan on. If it's field engineer, superintendent, foreman, whatever, you'll achieve the goal. But you do have to put in the effort, and you have to take advantage of the opportunities you're given.
Yeah, and if you're given the opportunity to take a class on anything, I don't subscribe to the throw everybody in every class that's available.
I don't think that's not the right mindset.
But if you have the ability or the opportunity to take a class, go into it with the intent on putting effort into the class and learning something from it, and talking to the instructor. Get out of your comfort zone, because that. In the classroom, I tell everybody, in the classroom is the perfect place to screw up.
Yep.
Because it doesn't matter, right? So learn from your mistakes.
That's what I set it up that way, is that we may be doing a project that week, we may be pouring concrete. At the end of the day on the job, you got to pour the concrete when the truck shows up. In there, I hope we make a few mistakes, we can fix them and still pour the concrete. But if not, then we'll figure it out. We'll get it done to be able to pour concrete, but I want to make sure that we have time to go over everything. Yeah. That means if we make some mistakes, we'll get it fixed before we got time. That's the way I always plan it, is so that I have time for us to make mistakes and get it done right at the end of the day. Because I think you learn. That's the way you learn.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, we'll get into some more stuff on the next episode, but I think that's a pretty good place to put a pin in it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well,
thank y'all for listening on whatever we post this to, because we still have not quite figured that out.
We're getting ready to, because this is episode 5.
This is episode 5. So
we made a goal. We've made a goal.
We have. We started small, and it took months. It took very many months.
And Lynn just loves. I was talking to my mom real quickly.
Your mom?
No. I was talking to my mom on Friday. No. Hey. But I was telling her on Friday, because we're setting something up for dinner last night, and I said, Ryan's coming down. We're going to do a podcast episode, and she goes, oh, okay. So then yesterday afternoon, Lynn called my mom and said, yeah, come on over for dinner. And she goes, well, what about that podcast thing that he's doing? And Lynn goes, don't worry about it. They don't do that.
Mine doesn't do it.
No. It's both. It's both.
So,
All right. Well, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.